How to start your Monday morning. Start the fire, boil the water, grind the coffee, add filter, coffee in the filter, water into filter, watch it drip, more water, watch it drip some more, fill your cup, raise your cup, and no. Leave the house and leave it up to the professionals to make the coffee. I'll stick to the conversations. Welcome to Caffeinated Conversations with Brooke Allen. Hey, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Caffeinated Conversations, episode 85. Cannot believe it. And you know, I think we're starting a trend here. Last week, we had everybody on the couch at the same time. This week, we have everybody on the couch at the same time because that's the way to keep the conversation flowing. So I want to say good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. And we have a whole little gamut of guests here today. So we have an author, Wittenberg Weiner is here. And then Dayna, you will explain your name in a minute. And then Kalimah.
Yes.
I got it, didn't I? Kalimah Johnson.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for being here. And the reason I kind of like paused with that is because I had a speech impediment for like 6-7 years when I was a kid, and I still have to spell out things phonetically. So when I pause and what's your name? Say it again. And then usually I ask like 3 or 4 times. So I think we got to 5, right?
Yep, it's all good.
Okay, so you are the founder. We're going from a couple different topics here. You are the founder of the Sasha Center.
I am, and the executive director currently.
Okay,
And
what is...
So Sasha Center is a nonprofit organization located here in southeastern Michigan, and we provide support group services to self-identified experiencers of sexual assault. What we do at the center, and we're 15 this month, so
Really?
I'm super excited.
Happy birthday, man.
Thank you. We're 15. What I'm really excited about, or what I came to share, right, is the good news about the work that we're doing in the city of Detroit and beyond. And really what we do is we provide education, support. We are a social work agency. We offer CEUs, and we do events for those who experience it and their supporters. And so we have online support groups, and we also have in-person support groups. And I am really proud of the fact that at the Sasha Center, we are a leader in this work. We are on demand from everywhere, all over the country. And then I'm also the lead consultant on relationship safety and management with the National Basketball Association.
So that is so, and I read that, and it's just so interesting because you hear of all these incidents.
Absolutely.
Right? And so that they have brought you in speaks volumes.
Yeah, and I actually been doing that for 16 years now, and I just don't ever spread the word about it because, you know, I'm just busy getting on planes and doing the work with the players. It's really my job to make sure that players transition into, participate, and get out the game with their relationships happy, whole, and healthy. And I started with the Detroit Lions. My first class was Matthew Stafford and Brandon Pettigrew.
Really?
And then after I was with them for like 4 years, what happened was Ray Rice. Ray Rice assaulted his fiance on an elevator in Vegas. And after that, all of the sports leagues kind of lost their SHIT. And as a result of that, they just asked for a few of us experts who have been working with professional athletes on these issues. And so I move a little bit in all those spaces.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that more. I don't want to take up too much time.
No, that's okay. And real quick, you were a social worker.
I am a social worker.
You are a social
yes,
worker.
And I'm currently working on my PhD in English literature at Wayne State University.
See, my kids would love that so much. They, from the Big Bang Theory, they love PhD.
Listen, I can talk about literature all day, but I am certainly glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Dayna, you are up next.
Yes.
And okay, so tell me your name.
Yep. So Dayna, and you would find me everywhere. Dayna Oilyhairboss. So it's funny. I love the question, my name. So I speak on this a lot because I think names are so important. The pronunciation, the spelling of it. So I am Dayna, Dayna. And I am very, very promoting my Y because my name actually means bright as the day. And without my Y, you actually miss the very essence of who I am and my personality. And so I do feel like even from a biblical standpoint, names had meanings, right? They weren't just arbitrary, but they actually meant something. And then the Oilyhairboss. So I came from the beauty industry. I am a strong advocate for natural hair. But really more even that experience of the journey of going back to the roots. And so I incorporate a lot of holistic things in there. So herbs, oils, to go back to our roots.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And the whole nature and science, right?
Yes, because you need both.
You do. You do
Yep.
need both. Okay. And Lauren, I met you by chance
Yes.
at Some Girls Boutique in Berkeley.
Yes.
Because you're a good friend of Robin.
I
And
am.
you have ties to Michigan. You live in Florida.
I do. I grew up here. My whole family is still here. And so I come back all the time, but I say Tampa is like Michigan. Everyone's super nice. Everyone's super friendly, but much better weather.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. And you have a newly published
I
book.
do.
Yes, Unruly.
Unruly.
So yes.
And it is basically, I came out of the White House when I got my PhD. Ended up doing something totally different than academia and went into public policy, worked in the White House for 4 years, and then followed my husband on his military orders to Europe and found out that I was supposedly not allowed to work in Europe at the level that I had been working. Turned out not to be true, by the way, but they had said, oh, there's a policy on base. You can't apply for certain levels of jobs. We ended up changing that policy later. So,
job.
right,
Awesome.
and I'll tell you a little bit about how we did that. But basically, I started a company, and it was just for me at first, and we ended up growing it to about $100 million in annual revenue, and sold it about 3 years ago. And so when we sold it, I kind of went, how did we get here? How did I do this? And so Unruly kind of came out of that. And really, it was this idea that the rules, I don't break rules. I am way too much of a good girl to ever break any rules. But there's space within the rules to find your own path. And then when there's not, like when there was a policy on base that we couldn't apply for certain level jobs, you find a way to change the rules through advocacy. And so the book kind of takes you through. It's almost a guidebook to finding your own space and your own path to your own version of success. So,
But it's funny, the title, though, you hear Unruly.
and you think, breaking the
oh,
rules.
This is breaking the rules. My
No.
mom's going to ground me.
right. No, I'm a good
but
girl.
you're-
Like
yes,
I'm absolutely a good girl.
So it's so funny. So I say, I have my 13-year-old twins, and I say one is corporate, right?
Yes.
Because you just know a corporate personality.
Yes.
And one is creative. Right. And so it's like, oh, let me just draw outside of the box and I'll do this. And then the corporate one is like, did you sign this? What are we doing? But there are different personalities.
I love that.
And, but when I hear Unruly, I think, oh, this is about breaking all the rules.
No,
and
but
it isn't.
It's about finding your space within. There's so many things that people think are rules that aren't actually rules. And that's the whole point of this is don't let them hem you in with you can be moral, you can be rule following, but you don't have to be boxed in by those rules.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that very much. Okay. So go ahead.
Being the literary scholar that I am,
Uh-huh.
I love this word unruly. I'm very intrigued by it. And when I see the word unruly, I think about resistance.
Yes. Very much so.
Yeah, say more.
Yes, very much so.
I think about resistance and I think about being creative in that resistance and finding ways around the ways, right?
Yes.
And representing and representing the same thing that people have packaged so well, but we can undo that.
We can undo it and
Yes.
package it in a different way.
Yeah.
And absolutely, if you know how the rules work, then you know how to make the rules work better.
Advocacy,
Right.
Which
and
is
that's
my
it's
jam.
it's a huge piece of advocacy.
Which is my jam.
Right. So the whole the last third of the, not third half, the whole last third of the book is about advocacy, both on an individual level, which is kind of that social work piece,
Yes.
but then also, and just mentorship and kind of whatever, and then actually changing the rules systemically.
I love that. And I see a stack over there. Can you put my name in
Oh,
one of those,
you got
please?
one.
All right. Thank you.
I promise you.
Okay. So let me ask you this.
Yes.
Advocacy. What does that word mean to you?
Advocacy means to me being able to show up in spaces where people can't. Being a person that can help bring visibility to issues, problems, places, and people. Sometimes we have people that are navigating in the world who are invisible. and they're invisible for a whole lot of reasons that have nothing to do with them. And so if you're in a position of privilege, if you're in a position of power, if you are in a position to make change, even if it's just using your voice, using your creativity, using the way you show up dressed, all of those things can be ways that we advocate for others. At the Sasha Center, our advocacy looks like providing a safe space for people to come and tell their stories as they tell them. One of the things I think is extremely important that I can share here is that in the domestic violence and sexual assault world, for many, many years, it is common to hear the term victim or survivor, and that is often used. At the Sasha Center, we believe that calling people who've experienced sexual trauma or relationship-based trauma as victims or survivors puts them in a box. Because if I call you a victim, you're going to show up a certain way. But if I call you a survivor, you also may show up in a certain way, and you may not be either. And so what we've learned from providing support groups to those who have been invisible, they have taught us new language. And so we refer to clients, and we don't say, you're this, right? What we do is we just use it in our language when we write our grants and when we talk and when we share in spaces like this. We usually say that they are experiencers. And then that way they have the fluidity to make up their minds on any particular day at any particular time, who and what they are. And it's a conversation between Christmas and Kwanzaa. It's not meant to replace anything at all. It is meant to give people the option to choose. And that's what advocacy looks like, being able to embrace language and being able to embrace people's lived experiences that will allow us to show up better for them.
Wow, thank you. That's
You're
amazing. So, okay, Dayna, you are in the beauty industry. You're an esthetician too, right? And I mean, the same kind of thing applies because, we heard the whole, I'm going to go to the Ozempic craze for a minute, right? Because it's like people do all of this stuff that's kind of unnatural, but you bring in the holistic.
Yes.
And how do you intertwine nature and holistic and beauty and all of it?
Yeah, so I guess I'll first go back to my roots. So I'm a mixture. So I do have some Caribbean roots. I'm Haitian. So I grew up with a lot of natural options. So my mom, we always approached things as to what is the root cause, right? So if I had a headache, it wasn't just go grab an aspirin or Tylenol, right? It was, well, did you eat? Right? Are you stressed?
Did you drink enough water?
Did you have enough water? Right? Like what could be causing, the headache first? And then once we got to the root of it, then we operate from there. And so even when it comes to hair, so there was 3 girls growing up, and for the most part, I did not know how to do my own hair. So we got dropped off at the salon. I would get my hair done, and I knew how to maintain it in between the times that I would go back to the salon and get my hair done. And so when you really incorporate the natural aspects of it, what I realized is there's so many things that we actually have here already. We just don't know how to use it.
Right.
Or use it well. I also feel like it's so powerful and important that not everything is for everyone. So for me on my natural hair journey, I would watch these videos and I'm like, yep, I got 4C hair and I can do this. Okay. And then I would buy all the products that they said to buy. And then I would use all the things and have all the tools. And then I'd come out and I'm like, it don't look right. I didn't spend all this money, all this time, and this don't seem right.
I love that.
Right?
Tell the truth.
And so then I really had to learn. And for me, that's where the science comes in, because now I have to understand about porosity in hair. I have to understand that, well, my scalp is actually an extension of skin. So if I'm not taking care of my scalp, right, what is manifesting and coming out of my head? So it's really that education piece and intertwining the two of them, because I think they enhance each other so much.
That is okay. So how many products did you buy?
So I mean that on a regular basis, I probably had cabinets full of stuff that I tried at least once. And for me, another thing that was very, very powerful is as I was making this transition, I already, again, did a lot of things holistic. So I'm reading labels and I'm looking at ingredients.
And that's already a head start, kind of, right?
Right.
Because a lot of people don't do that.
Right. But what startled me is things that were marketed to the white sector. It was only like 30% of the ingredients had known carcinogenics in the beauty products, right?
Mhm.
Whereas for the ethnic population, it was 70%.
Wow.
Really?
Mhm.
And so what I
Oh, wow.
realized is I'm like, there is an education piece that's
Yeah.
not being done. And if my father sees this, he's gonna laugh. But I'll never forget one time he was packing lunches for my nieces, and he had a Twinkie in there, and I'm like, Daddy, Twinkies aren't food. And he's like, well, I fed you Twinkies. What you mean they're not food, right? Like,
Oh my God, we have a lobby full of Twinkies.
it's horrifying. That's why I had to put that in there. The hostesses out there, but my point being, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And as I'm learning and educating myself, I didn't know these things. And so what I realized is that there's a group of people that are buying products off the shelf or doing certain things simply because this is all they know.
Right.
Or this is what is supplied in the beauty industry. And so when I started my journey, there weren't as many products. There wasn't as many options, right? So even to the point that a lot of our hair care products, I had to use ones that were very specific to white people,
Really?
and then figure out what to do with it. So I think there's so much education. I think there's so much. I love the word advocacy that because somebody has to go 1st, right? And if somebody doesn't go first, other people, and there's some people that don't care, right? They're like, I'm gonna use my same shampoo.
Right, for sure, right? Go to the Dollar Tree, never mind.
Right. But it's for the people that want to learn and want
deserve
to,
to know.
and deserve to know.
And deserve to learn, because I think that's part of this is that, the whole educational piece, and that we think, oh, well, we're good enough. It's good enough, right?
Right.
Or it will do.
Yeah.
But there's so much more than that. And the world as a whole is bigger than that.
Exactly.
Right. And something as far as a hair product may seem inconsequential, but it isn't.
No.
Because it matters to people.
Yeah. And especially if it's, when I say carcinogenics, like you also look at statistically, right? So Black women have larger numbers when it comes to different things, when it comes to their reproductive systems, fibroids, endometriosis. That's not by chance. It is the little bit of poison that we're putting on our skin, the little bit of poison we're putting in our hair, the little bit of poison here and there, it adds up, right? The foods that we're intaking, the water that we're not drinking, all of it matters. And so, again, it encompasses understanding the full body and how everything operates within ourselves and doing better.
It's amazing.
I would love,
Right?
No,
go ahead.
All
right, go ahead.
I just want to say I would love to take both of you with me to the Sasha Center. One of the things I want to say I think is extremely important that you're talking about is at the Sasha Center, because we center the lived experiences of Black women and girls. One of our topics in and of itself is just skin and hair. And what's really interesting is when we were funded by the federal government in the state of Michigan, we did a support group actually about hair. We actually do scalp scratching.
Okay.
And folks were like, well, what does that have to do with sexual assault? And it's like, it has everything.
First, tell me what that is first.
It's a very culturally specific experience that we have growing up in Black community. My sister and I used to do that for each other. It's where we actually go through this scalp and actually pull up. I'll let her handle that piece of it.
Okay.
But it's really called dandruff or like when you have overgrowth of what's that product that automatically comes out of our hair,
Like the dandruff and stuff?
yeah, dandruff, but it's one other thing that I'm missing. But we'll sit and we'll put a person between our legs and we get a comb and we just part and just really get in the parts. And so it's really a very culturally specific thing that happens in the Black community and in Black homes and in Black families. And I own a natural hair care studio as well. It's called Pick Natural Hair Care Studio.
Nice. Okay.
And I wrote a book called Locks for Life, The Route to Wellbeing for African American Women. And that actually informs us at the Sasha Center in terms of how we engage in conversations with Black women who are healing from trauma. And really, it is a very tender time. It is a time where we actually connect. And we have a new domestic violence shelter that's going to be on the east side of Detroit. And they asked me to come over and advise them about creating a community space where that happens. Somehow the language got lost and they ended up building a beauty salon in there.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, that's not what we intended. But glad it's there because now we can figure that
sure,
out too.
right?
But we need a living room, and we need crates, and we need barrettes, and we need things to feel like the Tiff Massey exhibit that was at the Detroit Institute of Arts. If you got a chance to
It
go
was
there,
gorgeous.
wasn't it
7
amazing?
Illinois.
Yeah,
Let's go.
and so we're talking about creating culture, and so I need both of you
Yeah.
to just come on over and help us
I
keep
think-
developing that.
I think part of that too, though, taking care of your hair and how you said you put, they're between your legs and you're combing, and it's caring for them.
Yes.
It's caring for them in a vulnerable time when they have gone through trauma.
Mhm.
And so it's starting, and it's also touch,
Oh, absolutely.
right? Because that is a whole other realm
Yes.
of, people sitting down and being able to be still, be cared for, but also be touched
Yes.
after they were touched in a horrible way, maybe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I cannot stress enough about the extent to which it's important to be in your body and to return to your body after someone has violated you is extremely important. And hair for Black women is huge. It's not just about a style or a particular thing that we choose.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that because we are judged when we walk in a room because of our hair. Even when you think of the Hair Act, right? We were denied jobs because of our hair. Again, going back to my Caribbean roots, I have lots of family that have locks, right? Locks have only more recently become accepted.
Yeah.
There used to be this idea that, they're dirty. They don't wash their hair, right? And things like that. Whereas that was culturally what I knew. The majority of my family has dreads and locks, right? And there's a difference between locks and dreads, but we can.
Oh, yeah. And I'm
all
so
of that.
glad you dropped the 4C. I know y'all don't know what 4C is, but yes.
It's a hair texture, but it's a very personal thing. For me, and I talk about this. So I was a contributor in a book that was called Love Thy Body, but I spoke on the hair portion of it because for me, Black Barbie dolls didn't come around until I was already like 3 years old. So what I'm playing with as what the standard of beauty is didn't look like me, right? So even as we, in going back to the culture situation, right? Nobody has to tell me I don't belong. I can look around and see that I'm not the majority and what belongs or doesn't belong, right? So even in my home where I can be built up, I still go into a world that I can walk in a room and I'm the only Black person there, right? And there's already a judgment of me because I have braids or because my hair is in an afro. I remember one time, so there was a period I owned my own spa, and I had a client, very faithful, love him. God rest his soul, he's passed. And I remember in my transition of natural hair, now granted, I told y'all some days it was rough. It was rough. And I remember showing up and that day after his service, he gave me an extra tip. And he said, so I see that you haven't been able to get your hair done. And I had to explain to him, right? Because I'm like, no, this is my natural hair, right? Now, granted, it's going through some processing. I gotta hydrate it. I gotta do some things to it, but this is who I am, right? This isn't a lack of funds. This is me embracing who I am. And he, he was, he was the best, but like, sometimes again in society, the conversations that we have to have are unique because there aren't necessarily things that other people might have to deal with or talk about. Again, going back to hair is more than just a style. It's more than something that's on top of our head.
It's funny. So I worked around the military a lot, and there was a really great period of advocacy around Black women in the military and their hair and being able to wear hairstyles that they were, for the longest time. And there's still limits that probably aren't entirely fair, but they're better because of the advocacy that has happened around kind of centering that experience and that identity. They're able to wear different hairstyles now, which I was really happy to see.
They were finding ways to be unruly.
But isn't this interesting though, that we have to advocate for someone's hair?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, how do you know what I mean? I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do, but I don't.
And one of the things I want to say, and it's me transition our conversation just a little bit. In this country in particular, Black women aren't even seen as rapeable. And what I mean by that is that Black women were forced here. I am a descendant of enslaved people. I happen to know who I am a descendant of. And our lives did not start on a plantation in Kentucky by John Bradley. And so what I did was I actually did the research and I actually found the descendants of the family who owned us. And we have conversations all the time. And we're very close. And we met in 2004. And they put me in the wheel as they should. But one of the things I think is extremely important, especially when I advocate about sexual assault and Black women in the city, is that there were no laws that protected us. And just, last week we had an event where we engaged Black men on conversations around rape and sexual abuse and protecting women and girls in the city. And one of the specific things that they haven't had a chance to talk about is the trauma of lynching in this country. A lot of Black men were wrongfully lynched for saying that they sexually assaulted particularly white women. And so those are the tough conversations that we have to have in terms of being able to be advocates, being able to be unruly, being able to walk the line and do something very different than what's expected of us. But in talking about and thinking about that piece that you brought up so eloquently at the beginning about advocacy, part of advocacy is education, and part of education is being able to tell the truth and being able to bring those things. And so, yeah, sometimes it's difficult to find funding, to get support, for people to even believe that Black women are actually victims of sexual assault and gender-based violence.
That is,
Ooh, I didn't mean to bring
No,
it down.
no,
Where's the
no.
coffee? We put something in it.
no, but this is a serious topic on all levels,
Yeah.
right? I mean, sexual assault and rape, domestic violence, all of it. It affects a lot of people that you don't even know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of being unruly and thinking, you have this center that 15 years. So I'm going to tell you something. I anchored at a major station and I have never heard of the Sasha Center.
Absolutely.
So how is that possible?
It is possible because, and I'll give you a perfect example. When a case like Naziah Harris happens in the city, there are all kinds of cultural nuances that are apparent in what happened to her and how she slipped through the cracks and how we didn't see her. And the other slip in the crack with major media is that they will ask white women who are actually leaders in sexual assault and domestic violence. So even though that happened in Detroit, they would call somebody in Macomb or Oakland or Western Wayne County to have those conversations. And sometimes it's just easier because that's who they've always talked to.
Right, they're in the Rolodex.
Yeah,
I
and
get
so
it.
I'm not
I
really
mean,
trying to throw anybody
no,
under
definitely
the,
not.
because they need to be calling us though, because we've been doing this work for a long time. And I was a sexual assault advocate for 35 years. I started with the Detroit Police Department and I worked there while those rape kits were being stockpiled. And they weren't just being stockpiled in an abandoned building. They were being stockpiled in an abandoned building that was being torn down. And so I was in that space advocating for survivors and experiencers and not even knowing that these kits that I held hands while the evidence was being collected were being stockpiled, never to ever be investigated.
They were just sitting there.
81% of those kits belonged to Black women DNA. And that sends a clear message that Black women's stories are not important, that Black women's stories should not be believed. And unfortunately, one of the main reasons why we had that meeting with Black men this past week was to tell them how much power they really hold. Because at our support groups, when we ask experiencers, how did they get to us? A lot of them will say, my father told me to come.
Really?
My brother told me to come. My husband told me to come. My lover, my partner told me to come here. Men carry that kind of power. And it could be rooted in some patriarchy. Okay, I'm not going to go there. But at the end of the day, I think at the Sasha Center, and I think the good news about the work that we do is that, one, we're here. I also think the good news is that organizations across the country are actually looking at our work, and we're being cited by scholars everywhere because we believe in doing that work unapologetically, unruly, in an unruly way, and then embracing our culture because we are a culturally specific program. Our funding is definitely possibly could be on the chopping happening Black right now, because now we're being told that we can't even use words like Black or resistance or liberation or any of those things. And so it's going to be an interesting year to see kind of what happens. And we're holding our hearts and we're praying and we're keeping our fingers crossed and doing all the things that we need to do to make sure that we can continue to do the work. And what I know for sure is that I think this is important, and I won't take up too much time, but I think it's extremely important to know that Sasha Center, we see ourselves as an auxiliary to other programs. So mainstream programs can call us anytime. We offer training, we offer support groups. And so when you're engaged with Black women, particularly, no matter where they are geographically in Michigan, you have a resource. We are the resource.
You're not closed off.
Not at all.
Right.
And I want to be real clear about this. Just because we center Black women doesn't mean they're the only ones that can come. Any and everybody who identifies as an experiencer of sexual assault, they can come. Now, if they come to the support group and we end up talking about lynching or surviving something or how to cook chitlins, we ain't got time to stop and explain that to you. You know, just come on, just roll with us. Just roll with us. We'll catch you on the back end. But the good news is that we're providing a place of joy, and we are providing a place where people have the audacity to come and be soft and be poured into and to be believed. And that's what we do at the Sasha Center. And I don't know why, timing is everything. And I want to thank a lot of people for this opportunity, including you, like for having us here to even talk about this, because sometimes it's difficult to talk about gender-based violence or sexual assault because people are uncomfortable and don't know what to say. But at the end of the day, what we know is that if it hasn't happened to you, you know somebody who it's happened to, you know somebody who's witnessed it, or they've been impacted by it because they've seen it in social media or read it in a book or something. But there's room to talk about these things and to heal from them and to integrate. I'm sitting here forward, but I'm gonna show you the back of my shirt.
Healing is possible.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely. So that's my thing.
But okay, so let's talk about healing. And Dayna, back to you with the holistic and healing and doing it holistically. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
And it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Can I also because you asked her why maybe her organization has not been in some of these medias. One of the things that I did, so I just recently had a conference back in May. And one of the things that I am very, very strong about is we need to integrate these communities. And I think we were chatting a little bit about that earlier, because I'm like, as beautiful as Detroit is, I love it, love it, love it, love it. But there's times where I walk in spaces and I'm the only Black person, right? And there's times I walk in spaces and there's only Black people. And my thing is there's amazing organizations and amazing people doing things over here and amazing ones. So why are our Arabic families not coming over to our Jewish families that are coming over to our Black families? Because even though, yes, I have a different history, I also can trace my lineage back to my slave owner. So on my father's side, they're all high yellow because I know who my slave owner is going back. His name is Boog Stokes, right? And Annie Stokes, who I'm descendants of, right? But at the end of the day, we all face pain, trauma. Now, does it look a little different? Yes. But when we can get in spaces and understand that we are more the same than not,
Absolutely.
right? Then we can have a heart to help in those spaces, right? And so it is important. I say this a lot. I never wanted to be in front of a camera. I never wanted to be on anyone's stage. And I think last week you had Demarie on your event, and I spoke on her stage. And I came up to Kendrick Lamar, DNA. If you know that song, it's all about like what is in my DNA, right? And what I spoke about is my slave owner from stage in a group full of majority white women. And the reason I did that, because I related it back to, regardless, I don't know portions of my roots. Each and every person sitting here also doesn't know portions of their roots. And so we are more alike than not. And so because we're more alike than not, how can we come together?
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I did at my conferences, I had my good friend Patrice come on stage, and she talked about losing her son. Now, He unfortunately passed way too young, but he was a strong advocate for the community. And one of the things I talked about on stage is, as a Black woman, not only do I have the challenges of certain things, but I have to raise a little Black boy to go into a world where he's going to be a Black man, and he's going to, again, be judged when he walks in the door. And so the more that we can create these spaces where we not only have the conversations, but we also have to, people do have to be comfortable,
Yeah.
right? Like, I love all my Black spaces too, but if they walk in and they're like, okay, well, we gonna just keep talking about the white slave owner. It's the biggest, not very cool. But what can we do now?
Yeah.
So we know our past, we know where we are. So now how can we move forward into the future together? And I always say, I'm not building new tables.
Yes.
The table that is here is perfectly fine. Y'all get up if you don't like the change that's happening. Right. And those that are ready to sit down, come on and sit down.
Straight.
Pull up a chair.
Pull up
Darn
a chair.
straight.
That's right.
Well, and we were talking before we came out on the couch here about having those conversations really openly. I was I put out something, or I was about to put out something on imposter syndrome, right, which is a big thing, particularly I think in the white women community of high achieving women. And my PR person, who happens to be a Black woman, was like, hold on a second. This is very different in the Black community, and particularly the Black women community. So I listened to her, and I was like, all right, I have one of my best friends is a Black woman who's a judge in town. And I called her and I was like, hey, and we have these open conversations where it's like, no problems, no issues. We all know we love each other. We all know we trust each other. So we can have, she'll call me and be like, hey, can you explain this Israel-Palestine thing to me in a different way? Like, I don't understand it. And I can ask her the same kind of questions. So I said, do you experience the imposter syndrome? And she said, oh yeah, absolutely. And I was like, okay, I thought you did. And then she goes, wait a second. What do you mean by imposter syndrome? And it turns out it's entirely different in the Black female community than in the white female community. I walk into a room and I generally know I deserve to be there, but I feel like somebody's going to figure out that I don't deserve to be here, right? And I talked to Jess and she was like, oh no, I know I deserve to be in every room I'm in because I've had to go further and further and harder to get into those rooms. My imposter syndrome is I assume everyone assumes I'm an imposter. And nobody assumes I'm an imposter. Everyone expects for me to be there. I've proven myself. I don't believe it myself. It was it was like an epiphany moment for both of us where she was like, how the heck do you not think that you deserve to be there? And I was like, I can't believe that and I know that people, think that it's because of affirmative action or whatever you want to say. But I was like, oh, this is how you experience this stuff. But it's those conversations that we have to be having in a way that is open and honest and not asking them to do the work for me or me do the work for them or what, but just let's have those conversations realistically that we end up getting to the next level, that we can pull everyone to the right table or make a different, or blow up the table entirely.
Who needs to sit at a table?
Right? I
love that.
so
Just pull up chairs, no table.
Yeah.
And I will say, when we had that conversation, so from a very young age, right, I was taught, like, when I walk in a room, I have to work harder.
Yeah.
I have to work harder.
Yeah.
Because they're already gonna, again, prejudge me on certain things. And I also have the weight of, for some people, I might be the first Black person they have ever met, right? So now I have the responsibility. So if I come off, because I'm going on, well, she's an angry Black woman, right? Like, or whatever perception that I give right now, this is the standard certain people may have because of something I do. So, right, like, and I think, well, I don't want to go too deep into that, but there was some statistics that came out where, like, one of the most educated population is the Black woman.
Yes.
Right? But why? Because we had to keep proving that we belong here. And not saying that other people didn't have to work harder, but we have to keep getting these, because then now you can respect me. Now the things that I've built, you see. Even so, I have like my mom's in business networking community, but I have leaders that are offset all over. And I walk into their meetings and they have no idea, their communities don't know who I am,
Mm-hmm.
but it's purposeful.
Mhm.
Because for me, I understand my mission. And unfortunately, I will always be a Black woman in America. So like, I can't always be the face of certain things
Mm-hmm.
because I know we're not going to grow as fast as I want us to
Yeah.
grow.
So let me ask both of you. I mean, is this exhausting for you?
That's an understatement. But I will say that again at the Sasha Center, we are aware of these things keenly because we listen and we hear the stories and we try to support. At the Sasha Center, we also believe that culture cures and history heals. And so while these things are being extremely exhaustive, we replenish through arts and literature and music and dance and the colors that make us special and make us who we are. And it can be exhausting. But I also think that it's not just only exhausting for us. As women, these things are exhausting because just hearing you share about like the conversations that you have to be vulnerable, that requires work as well, and that can be equally exhausting, especially when we come into these circles and spaces and on couches in conversation about things that are tough for all of us, and we do have more things in common than not. We just have to really make ourselves or center ourselves and breathe enough to know that we can show up for each other in those gaps. And showing up for each other in those gaps is what makes the exhaustive work it balances it out. But I hold it with both hands, and we have to hold it with both hands. That yes, it's exhaustive, but we have these other things. And so at the Sasha Center, we believe that culture cures and that history heals. If you know your history, then you won't repeat it. And if you are engaged in your culture, then that lowers shame and guilt about being expressive in spaces that aren't yours. If that makes sense.
No, it does for sure. So at the Sasha Center, how many, 15 years you're celebrating.
Yep.
How many women have you helped?
Oh God. Since 15 years, I would say in the thousands. But right now, I will say that we have a support group, either virtually or in person, 4 days a week. And we have women that participate anywhere from 3 who might come on to virtual all the way up to 15. We had 21 women in one session in person on the east side of Detroit last week. And then, like I said, this last week when we were working with men, we had 70 participants at that. And we believe that events are just as cathartic as our actual services that we provide. We were very specific in being culturally specific around how we do the work. So we only do support groups because we believe that our community needs to like heal together intergenerationally and within like a family setting. So we don't do individual therapy or counseling. And that's okay because we are partnered with Avalon Healing Center. Avalon Healing Center is the largest sexual assault agency in the state of Michigan. Kim Hurst and I, we call each other work wives. We've been working together all these years. And literally when she acquired the new building that she has in downtown Detroit, she gave Sasha Center a whole entire space and wing. So we have what we call the Sasha Lane there. So we do a lot of our programming there as well. But in terms of the work that we've done, sometimes the numbers matter, but then sometimes if we help one, that is extremely important as well. But I know people respond really well to numbers. And I will tell you that this particular season, since January to now, we've probably been somewhere around 320 people who have interacted with us.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Lauren, I'm going to ask, and I didn't tell you I was going to ask you about this,
All
but you had
good.
mentioned it when I met you initially, that you were going back and forth to care for your cousins.
Yes.
And I didn't realize it till I got home with your book and I saw your name, Wittenberg,
Yeah.
that you were talking about Jamie, Judge Jamie
Yeah, I
Wittenberg,
was.
right?
I was.
From Royal Oak.
Yep.
And I just, you had said when I met you too that, I knew that my journals and everything, he would want me to do this. And so he was kind of the reason that you wrote this.
So Jamie and I are 2.5 months apart. We did everything together from the time we were babies onward. I think we got married like 2.5 months apart as well. And Jay was probably one of the best people I know. I'm going to try really hard not to cry. Jay was one of the best people I know. He had at his funeral people were walking up to his wife, giving her their sobriety coins because he was so good at making sure that people, yes, he was a judge, yes, he was, he had to punish people sometimes, but for the most part, he really looked at the background and figured out how to make them work better, and so I would come into Michigan, and we'd be walking down the street, and people would run up and hug him and say, "Judge Wittenberg, you sentenced me to jail, and it changed my life." And I was like, "Jay, that's crazy, right? Like, people don't hug judges,
Right.
but they did." So as I was processing, both selling the company, 5 days after I sold the company, his cancer came back, and so I was flying back and forth. And just writing, just to write and just to understand what was in my head. And I didn't think anything of it. And then he passed. And I looked at it and I was like, I think this is something. I really want to do something with this. And it really was a kind of homage to him on how do you still be a good person? Because that was really important to us as a family. How can you follow the right things? How do you follow your moral path? But change the world, right? How do you do this? How do you do it for yourself? How do you do it for your community? And so I didn't know what the heck it was going to be at that point. I really didn't know if it was going to be a book or not. But when Jay passed, I was like, all right, this is something. He wants me to do something with this. And so I did, and I actually took this. This is his book. I just took it yesterday.
Really?
Yes.
To his, I took it and saw him, and it's written actually to the inscription is to Jamie, and I'm carrying it around, and I'll be reading from it in some of my book readings and stuff like that for him, because this really was it's Jamie, and I really appreciate him continuing to guide me. 3 years after, 2.5 years after he passed, he's still guiding me.
I just thought that was important too, because once I realized it, I was like, she was talking about Jamie,
Yeah.
the judge.
Yeah.
And when he passed, I mean, everyone was so
Oh
sad.
my God! It was Detroit was like there were supposedly 2,000 people at his funeral in person. This is during COVID, and 2,000 people online, and it was just, I mean, it was overwhelming to see. And for me, he had the governor sent a video, and the attorney general came and spoke at his shiva and all that. But it was the real people. Like, I mean, it's great. They're real people too,
No, right,
certainly,
right.
and they're important. Whatever. He didn't care about how important they were. He cared about the people that they were, and that taught me a lot. It's how I've always lived my life as well. But just seeing that, it was the real people that he impacted that were much more meaningful to him than whether or not they were important in politics or rich or famous or whatever. So that kind of sticks with me as well.
Well, thank you.
Thank you
For sharing that. And yeah, when I got home, I was like,
Yeah.
it was Wittenberg.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah.
So that, okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Okay. And so if you were to meet your younger self for coffee, what would you tell her?
I tell her, don't worry. It's going to be all right. When I was younger, I actually dropped out of high school in the 9th grade and I never went back, and I got a GED. I would tell her, girl, you're going to be on your way to getting a PhD. So it's going to be fine.
That is another high five, man. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Wow. Okay. How about you, Dayna?
Oh my goodness. What would I tell myself? I think the biggest thing I would tell myself is stay true to who you are. And from the standpoint of there's so many pieces of my personality that I had to have a coming back to. And I will say my parents were amazing in the support of who I was before a time when parents were really advocating for their kids, right?
Right.
So if a teacher had said something about me or I was, they went back to well, why did she get out of her chair? Right? Or why did she do, you know what I mean?
Awesome.
And so I feel like I had that foundation, but then life took me away from that. And I just needed to come right back to that. You were fine just where you were. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, Lauren.
I would say don't limit yourself by what people think you're supposed to do or what you think you're supposed to do. So at any point in my life, if you had asked me where I was going to be in 5 years, I would have gotten it wrong by a magnitude and by limiting myself more. So taking the opportunities, realizing when there is an opportunity presented to you and seizing on it, and not worrying about what other people think or what other people expect of you. Because I had a whole lot of expectations on me that I ended up bucking as soon as I got my PhD and I was supposed to be a professor, and everyone was like, "What? You're not going to be a like you've got all these options in front of you to be a professor." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't think I want to do." And it took me a while to be okay with saying, "I understand I could do this. I don't want to do this."
Well, good for you for saying you don't want
Right?
to, right?
Mhm.
After all the work and everything.
Right, exactly. And people were, and so being able to say, "Yeah, you know what? I thought I wanted this, or I've done really well at this, but now I don't want to do it anymore," I think was a critical piece to each of the different places that I found myself was, yeah, that's not really my path anymore. That might be the path you think I'm going to be on, but I don't need to be on that path anymore.
So staying aligned with yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
And listening to your gut.
And listening. Intuition, I know that I've had a problem following intuition for years, but I think I finally learned that you have to go through intuition, right? Because it's your stomach, your gut telling you, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, right? And it's the whole natural approach.
Yes, yes, I love it.
Or do it.
Or do it.
Or do it.
Or do it.
Yes.
What the heck, man? Let's just do it.
Yes.
Let's just do it. Okay, so how can we help the Sasha Center? How can people help?
They can go to our website, www.sashacenter.org, and donate if they'd like to. They can actually engage in our support groups, and they can follow us on social media, Instagram and Facebook. And they can always ask the question, now what? These things happen, but there's always something else that can help them heal and grow, and we can do it together. So, just check us out on the website. Click the donate button if they want to do that.
Click it a couple times.
Sign up to volunteer. Spread the word.
Yes.
Let folks know that we exist, that we're here, and we're here to help.
Okay, awesome. Dayna, how about you? How can we help you?
So I guess I really didn't talk a lot about my Moms in Business networking community, but that's where, like, right now I need the most support and help. We brought this concept from the UK to Detroit. We have expanded throughout the Metro Detroit area, and I want to go across the country. So just really looking for other women advocating for communities of local businesses that would offer child-friendly networking opportunities for women. So if you know anybody that wants to lead,
Come to Tampa.
Yes.
Come to Tampa. I'll get you plugged in Tampa.
There's your first lead.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, Lauren, how about you?
Well, you can find the book. It is just out, and so you can get it on all the places that you buy, Amazon or Barnes & Noble or indie bookstores, which is my favorite. Amazon and Barnes & Noble are great too, but go on social media for me. Go and write a review if you read the book, because that's really important as well. But yeah, just hopefully it starts a conversation, which is really what I'm trying to do with the book.
Unruly.
Unruly. Unruly.
We're all unruly. All right, ladies, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Dayna, do you have a website? I do feel bad. We didn't talk about the mom, but this was important conversation.
Yes. No, this was amazing. So it is mibinternational.com for the Moms in Business information.
All right. So you're going to Tampa.
Yes.
I'm going to go check out the Sasha Center. Just,
Thank you.
we're going to get major media involved in this, right?
Yes.
15 years
Yes.
is kind of crazy to not know about that.
Yes.
And everyone's going to buy your book.
Yeah.
Let's
All
do
right.
it.
Awesome.
Okay.
Love
That's
it.
what we're doing.
Let's
Okay.
go.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you. And thank you. And we'll see you next week. Keep the coffee hot. Bye.